Yo, what's good, Spirit Squad? Today we're going to celebrate a little bit more of Wilds of Eldraine by playing some Standard. And Standard is a format that I haven't really touched too much in the last, well, while. But there's a lot of new cards in this format. And honestly, there's a deck that's very similar to Mono Blue Spirits in Pioneer or Azoria Spirits right now. Because we actually get to play Combat Research, which is almost as good as a Curious Obsession effect in this style of deck. What we've got going on here as far as creatures to help make the combat research work is that we're playing 4 copies of Stormchaser Drake, which is a card that I've super loved for a pretty long time now. And it says whenever it becomes the target of a spell you control, you get to draw a card every single time. So whenever you slap a combat research onto this thing, draw a card. If you connect with an attack, draw another card. And that means that the cards keep flowing and it feels pretty good as a whole. We also get to play with copies of Ivy, Gleeful Spell Thief, and this card just really makes everything tick in this deck. Because whenever a player casts a spell that targets only a single creature that's not her, you can choose whether you want to get a copy onto her as well. So if you have the Stormchaser Drake and you put a combat research on it, you also get a free combat research on Ivy as well. And the same goes for any of your super cool protection spells. So if you're playing things like Slip Out the Back, say your opponent plays some big giant sweeper like a copy of Farewell, and you go ahead and slip out the back targeting your Stormchaser Drake, well, you also get to slip out your Ivy Gleeful Spell Thief, and now you've rescued 2 cards instead of 1 for just 1 mana from their big giant sweeper. So I'm pretty excited about seeing her go off too. The other creatures in the deck are going to be 2 copies of the Goose Mother, which is just a really solid card on its own. Like, it's not bad as a 2/2 for 2 because it's a legendary creature for combat research just like Ivy, but if you have a lot more than 2 mana and just nothing else to do with it, well, shit, play the Goose Mother for like X equals 4 and have a 6/6 flyer. And this thing just does a bunch of really solid stuff for this style of deck. So you can choose between like a 2/2 or being bigger than a 2/2, but also it makes a bunch of food, which is pretty good sometimes against the mono red decks, which are pretty popular in Standard. And also, you get to sacrifice a food whenever you attack with this thing and then draw a card. So if you're playing against something aggressive, cool, use the foods to gain life. If you're playing something that's not aggressive, okay, cool, sacrifice the food to draw cards. So I think the Goose Mother is a really solid card all around. The other big creature in this deck is going to be 4 copies of Horn Lockwhale, which we did just display in our blue-white control video the other day. Here, we get to do the same thing, except this card provides us with just a little bit of a way to fade big giant attackers, for example, opposing Shieldreds and stuff like that, but also just like a 6 mana 6/6 flash threat is not nothing in this style of deck, because a lot of the times your opponents are going to be trying to slow you down, and that means that you're going to be able to hit land drops, and the land drops will help you do things like make disappear, negate, essence capture, so that you can play around your opponent's things. You've got Spell Pierce a little bit earlier than that, but it still works out just fine, and eventually you'll find yourself with 6 mana every now and then, and that's enough, of course, to cast our friend the Horn Lockwhale. So I wouldn't exactly sleep on it as a threat in this style of deck. We also have a bunch of randomly super cool synergies, especially with Stormchaser Drake. So we already talked about things like combat research, but we have Royal Treatment as well, which is target creature you control gets hexproof, and you get a royal creature token, a royal roll token attached to that creature. So anything that you Royal Treatment on has protection from the initial spell, and all future spells are taxed, which I think is going to be pretty big, especially if you get to go Royal Treatment on another creature while Ivy is in play, because she'll get a Royal Treatment as well. Kind of fitting because she's a legend. But also, if you have one of your legendary creatures in play, say Ivy or the Goose Mother, and you stack both the Royal Treatment and Combat Research, that creature has Ward 2, not just Ward 1, because they do stack. So the Royal Treatment's roll token gets Ward 1, and Combat Research on a legendary creature gets Ward 1. So sometimes you're just going to have some big, scary, relatively untargetable creatures, and that's not exactly a fun place for your opponent to be in. However, that's not your problem. The other super big piece of synergy here is the combination of Essence Capture with Stormchaser Drake. The way that works is, of course, this thing gets to target a creature you control, draw a card. Essence Capture counters a creature spell, and you get a +1 counter on one of your target creatures you control. So you get to Essence Capture, counter their creature spell, target Storm Chaser Drake with the +1 counter effect, and draw a card for your troubles. So I'm really looking forward to that synergy being just as good as it has been for me in previous mono blue builds. Our sideboard is just kind of full of a bunch of decent stuff. I've got 4 copies of Fading Hope in here to, well, fade some of the more aggressive matchups. So if you find yourself fading anything that's soldiers or mono white or anything along those veins, Fading Hope is going to be pretty good against their 2 and 3 mana plays for just your 1 mana. Against a lot of the bigger decks, especially the green ramp decks, we've got 3 copies of Disdainful Stroke. So if your opponent's trying to come at you with some weird stuff like, say, Atraxa, then you're less likely to have to deal with that post-board, since we do have Disdainful Strokes for those. We've got 4 copies of Obstinate Baloth, and this is a card that I actually forgot was in Standard. It was reprinted in Brothers War as an uncommon, not even a rare. So that's kind of cool. And this card's just going to be solid against decks like Mono Red, which again is pretty popular in Standard. But also, there's a lot of the black decks in the format that are playing cards like Liliana of the Veil. And a thing that you used to do back in like the days when Liliana was a card that was just in Modern Jund, is sometimes decks would play 2 to 3 copies of Obstinate Baloth in the board. So when Liliana would use her uptick, you would discard an Obstinate Baloth, they discard a card, and you get a 4/4 and 4 life. So I'm hoping to kind of recreate some of that nostalgic bit of tech today. We also have 2 copies of Thrun Breaker of Silence, and this is going to be especially good against those mid-range and control decks that are just trying to beat out your stuff with giant piles of removal. Because this thing can't be countered, and it can't be the target of non-green spells, but since when is your opponent playing green removal? Most of the time, that's just like not really a thing. And Assassin's Trophy isn't even in this format. I don't think there's anything similar either. So once you just like have 5 mana, you just jam a Thrun and you tell your opponent it's their problem. Also, this thing is really good at combat. As long as it's your turn, Thrun has Indestructible, and you already basically never plan on blocking with this thing anyway. Sometimes you will against like mono white and stuff, but that's not really a concern that you have to deal with. So we're going to be really, really excited about playing Thrun as well. And the other 2 cards here are going to be Unlicensed Hearse, and this one is relatively self-explanatory. It's at its best against the things like Reanimator, because there are decks that look to put Atraxa in the graveyard and reanimate it, but also it's going to be good against Mono Blue Tempo, because cards like the Haughty Djinn and Tolarian Terror, both of those things rely on their graveyard, and Unlicensed Hearse is going to do a pretty good job at dismantling that. So that's going to be our standard deck. We're going to play some Simic Tempo, and I'm really excited. I think this list is going to do fairly well. Either way, let's find out firsthand. I'll see y'all in round 1. Today's video brought to you by FusionGamingOnline.com, your one-stop shop for all your gaming needs. Okay, round 1's here, and we do have a bit of a sad-faced one-lander that we're going to mull, and this is going to look a lot better. So I'm going to pretty happily keep this and get rid of the Spell Pierce. This is not exactly a format that has things like Thoughtseize, so I'm not super worried about them taking these out of my hand. Spara's Headquarters means that this could really be anything. It could be like a Bant Ramp deck. This could be some blue-white control type of dealy with Lashing Green for things like Herd Migration. So honestly, next to no information. Zeotor's Proving Ground does give us more information. That tells me to look out for things like Leyline Binding. So knowing that Leyline Binding is a possibility, I think I actually do want to walk into it. I'm going to go ahead and cast Ivy. And if they Leyline Binding this, so be it. And if not, sick, then maybe I get to untap and start playing cards. So what did I do for 3 mana here? Tertiary Stomper, okay. Or Topiary Stomper. Okay, so this is going to be one of those matches where things like the Essence Captures and maybe Disdainful Strokes out of the board are going to look / feel pretty good. So let's go ahead and get my attack in. And what I really want next turn is another land drop. So I'm going to go ahead, pass the turn here, and knowing that that's how the turn shaped up, I am a little sad that I played this rather than playing Storm Chaser Drake, but I'm still going to be fairly happy to Essence Capture here. So let's go ahead, put a +1 counter on the Ivy, and now I'm attacking for 3, which is going to feel pretty good. Oh, hey, look at that. So now I'm going to get another attack in, and I am going to cast our friend Stormchaser Drake. Hopefully this is a turn where my Spell Pierce looks pretty decent. If not, then I guess we tried it. Okay, still no Leyline Binding, which is of course very good for us. And 6 mana is scary, but let's see what happens. Archangel of Wrath. Won't lie and say that doesn't suck. So let's go ahead and... Okay, so this is actually where one of our close to best case scenarios comes in, where I get to Royal Treatment the Stormchaser Drake. And this is going to fade the super cool thing with their kicker. So I get to draw a card for that. And yes, I would like to give a Royal Treatment to Ivy as well. And look at that. Now we got to draw a card, and another Drake isn't exactly the best card, but still, look at this. So if they want to block, they can block. Will, okay. But here, I've got another Essence Capture and a Spell Pierce. So if they want to come at me with something like, say, just a Hardcast Atraxa or even another Archangel, I'll be pretty glad to use my Essence Capture, draw a card, and kind of keep it pushing from there. They do get to start attacking, which I'm not exactly the happiest about, but I also can't really do much about it. So let's hope to draw another land so I can keep playing Magic. Warrior's Briefcase, can't really do much about that. You got it. And they are able to make Wooburg next turn to draw cards, which I don't like. Still not a land. Man, we are not very good at this right now. So let's go ahead and attack for our 3. And here, what do I want to do? I'm going to go ahead and pass the turn. So the scariest things I think can come out of them are all creatures. I just really don't want to deal with something really scary like an Atraxa. So I'm going to give myself the chance to play an Essence Capture this turn as well. And we are past the point of being able to use Spell Pierce productively, but let's see what happens here. So I am at 8. That's another good thing to be aware of. My life total is getting... Oh, there we go. Life total is getting into relatively scary territory. Not a huge fan of that. So let's go ahead and attack them down to 11. And I will play another Drake here, I believe. Yeah, let's do that. Then we're going to go ahead and pass the turn. So now they're going to get to draw 3 cards, which is incredibly threatening. And there's an Ossification. Okay, so good to know that they have Ossification as well, but I'm going to go ahead and pack it up here. We are definitely not winning this game. Let's go into our sideboard here. And in our sideboard, I want the Thruns, I want the Disdainful Strokes, and I think that's actually it from here. Yeah, I don't really want any of these other cards. Cards that I don't necessarily care too much about here include the Horned Lockwhales. Since they're not an aggro deck really at all, they're just like a big ramp deck. And I'm going to take out one of my Make Disappears. I want to keep the negates and the Essence Captures. I do want to keep all of the hard counters I can have access to. So now we get to play first, and that is much better. Since I don't have a turn 1 play, I don't mind playing the Dreamroot Cascade first here. And if I can draw concurrent lands, that gives me a chance to use Otawara potentially as a spell later, if I actually just get to draw a giant pile of lands. So I know that they can have Ossification on turn 2, but I've got 3 of these Drakes, so I'm not really going to be too concerned about that. Okay, and there's one. So now let's see if I can draw some form of cool protection spell. Not quite, but let's go ahead and just jam out Stormchaser and see what happens here. There's a Briefcase. Okay, not doing much about that. So now we untap, and now we have a Slip out the back, which is a huge, huge, huge deal right now. So things that I am scared of include just like giant draws that involve their own creatures. Like if they play a Thrun before I can play mine, I'm not going to be a big fan of that. But I do have both a negate and a Slip out the back. So if they want to come at me with, say, removal or even something scary like some form of a sweeper, then I'll be pretty happy about getting to Slip plus draw a card. There's the Proving Grounds, okay, which means they have 4 mana here, and it means that with 1 more land drop of almost any color, they can give themselves the right to draw 3 cards, which not exactly something I want to deal with, but I am pretty glad to be a bit ahead here. So let's go ahead and attack first. So here is the Leyline Binding that we talked about before. Okay. So we're going to let the Leyline Binding resolve, and they're going to target one of my friends that I'm going to get to Slip out the back. So I get to draw a card for the Slip, which is pretty insane. And it's a land which I actually kind of appreciate here. So now their Binding doesn't do anything. They take 2. I make my land drop. And because I've got this negate in hand, I'm actually not going to cast the Ivy. Instead, I'm going to hold up the negate. Now my land drop has been made. And one of the best case scenarios here is that we just get to cast Thrun and be happy about it. What's this? Okay, so there's a Topiary Stomper. Not doing much about that. They do get to search up their land. And there's another Proving Grounds. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this attack for 1 and really just kind of see what happens when I get to jam my Thrun, potentially. If I draw a Combat Research, I will be very glad to just jam Ivy first. Okay, so now they take 5, go down to 11, and I'm just going to jam my Thrun. So as long as this isn't something like a Farewell, Thrun's going to be in a pretty happy spot. Sunfall. Ugh, gross. I feel like I very specifically asked for something like that to not happen, but okay, go off, I guess. So here's our friend Ivy, and now I've got the negate +2 spell pierces, but we're going to feel pretty bad about having not gotten to use our negate against that big Sunfall. So now they can make a 5/5, and they're threatening my life total pretty hard. Okay, so I take that, go down to 14, and we are in pretty dire straits. I would love to see something like a Combat Research at some point in this game. Mirix is actually not bad. So it can't block the 5/5, but it does present a threat and potentially increase my clock. Okay, there's a Plains. They've got 2 cards in hand. So we take this, go down to 9. Not exactly the happiest about that, but it is what it is. So here, let's go ahead and make our Toxic Friends and untap. Hey, there's the Combat Research I asked for. All right, cool. So now we get to go ahead and get the attack in for this. We can take exactly 1 more attack from this, and I would love to draw a card. And we have a Make Disappear, which I don't really know that I want, but it is a thing we have. Another thing that I could have done was put the Combat Research on the token here, but I actually just don't think that's the right play. So what I'm going to do here is Make Disappear, sacrificing the token, and I'm not going to be the happiest about potentially having to block the Phyrexian token with my Ivy, but unless I get something to do here, that's going to basically be what we need to have happen. And if this is just like a removal spell of some sort, I'll be pretty happy about the spell pierces. So I take this and go down to, oh my god, they didn't attack. Oh, that's so good for me. Okay, I actually really needed that to happen. I don't know why they didn't attack, because this doesn't have reach, and my Ivy flies. So if this can draw me into some sort of... Oh, actually, I think I'd just be happy with another creature to... Oh, never mind. I'm actually just happy with this. So the only thing that really digs them out of this is just like a big flying blocker. So if they draw another Atraxa, because I've got 2 negates and 2 spell pierces, no creature counter spells, then I am going to be super duper sad about that. But anything else, and I'm pretty well covered, I still don't know why we're not attacking. So I feel like my opponent is in very much paid actor mode, because we really should have just been attacking this entire time. So I'm going to go ahead and cast my negate here, and it looks like we might go to a game 3, depending on what this other spell is in hand. They're going to cycle a Jetmir's Garden. Is it a removal? Herd Migration's going to gain 3 life. Oh, come on. Ooh. So I get to draw another Restless Vinestalk. Okay. Oh, I just realized, duh, Restless Vinestalk is why they didn't attack. They needed to block the land. Okay, never mind. Reasons have been found. I just don't know what cards do, apparently. Okay, so there's the Mirix, and the reason I tapped out of my Mirix is because I do not want to be tapping the Mirix right now. I want to... I want to hold up mana for this negate, because of things like the Leyline Bindings that we saw. If I had tapped out of Mirix, then I take down my negate, and they are way out of Spell Pierce range. So what do I want to do in game 3 knowing that they're on the play? I think I still want the Spell Pierces, and knowing that they do in fact have the giant sweepers that can beat Thrun, I don't know that Thrun is exactly what I want either. So on the draw, I'm going to put this Make Disappear back in, and I'm also going to put Horned Lockwhale in. Only one. We got another sad face 1-lander? Come on, deck. This is honestly okay-ish provided I draw into a creature, but that really needs to happen. So I'm going to keep this, be sad about it, and put back one of my basic islands. Yeah, but I will not pretend to be happy about this. Okay, so there's a Royal Treatment, which again is pretty good provided I draw a creature, but that still kind of needs to happen here. If they play a Courier's Briefcase, I will be pretty happy to Spell Pierce it. That is what happens. Okay, so let's go ahead and Spell Pierce that, and then let's try to draw a creature. If I draw a creature here, I'm actually going to hold off on casting it because I've got this Royal Treatment in hand, so I don't really need to be pressing any buttons. If they play a Topiary Stomper, there's not much I can do about that, but such is the life of playing Standard. You know, your counter spells are kind of all over the place, with like some being Spell Pierce, some being Disdainful Stroke, some being Essence Captures, and as we saw last game, you can just draw like the wrong half of your counter spell suite. which is honestly fairly obnoxious, but it is what it is. So let's, okay, Ivy's not bad. So casting Ivy, I want to do it like that, and that gives me the ability to Royal Treatment or Slip Out the Back. And I'll be pretty happy for either of those, especially since they can't double Leyline Binding right now. If they have one Leyline Binding, then I get to cast my Slip Out the Back, knowing that I can untap and hold up the Royal Treatment. And the reason I want to do it exactly like that is so that I can give myself the option to cast double blue things if I, get to untap. If I draw a land that doesn't make green, but I draw a green spell, yeah, okay, I think I'm okay with that, like that. Yeah, so I'm going to cast a Slip Out the Back first if it ends up coming up. Because if I cast Royal Treatment and they go like land ossification, they can pay for the ward, but Slip Out the Back means that I get to guarantee that I untap with protection. So that's what my goal is going to be if they decide to point removal at Ivy right now. So there's Aspara's Headquarters, and there's a Topiary Stomper that I can't do much about. Okay, so now they're going to have a 5th land in play, but I'm going to get to untap and have Combat Research plus Disdainful Stroke up, and I think that feels pretty decent. And it's not the land that I wanted, but this is still not bad. So I'm going to attack with just 1 Combat Research. It is a land, which is amazing. And I'm not going to cast the other Combat Research until next turn. This turn, I can Disdainful Stroke plus Spell, so I want to give myself the ability to do that. They can't attack just yet, which is nice for me, and I'm not going to do anything funky or cute. We're just going to... Briefcase I can't do anything about. So now let's untap. A Storm Chaser Drake is pretty good. I think I want to just cast a Combat Research, though. And if they respond with like a Leyline Binding here, I get to cast Royal Treatment, and that still gives me Disdainful Stroke for next turn, even if I don't draw a land. Okay, so there is the Leyline Binding, so we're going to let that resolve, and they pay the ward first, and I'm going to make them tap the mana. Now I get to Royal Treatment. Sick. Now the Leyline Binding doesn't do anything, the Combat Research resolves, I get to draw 2 cards now, and yeah, deck is currently doing the thing. And I still have my Disdainful Stroke up, so I'm fairly safe against something like a big nasty Atraxa. And now that I've got Slip Out the Back, we're also feeling better against something really scary, like, say, Herd Migration is fine. Like a Sunfall, because I'm going to get to Slip Out the Back the Sunfall and protect it from that, even if they exile their own stuff. So there's the land drop, so they can attack with this now. Absolutely the F not, if you don't mind. Please get that big-ass Atraxa out of my face. But I will take the 5 and go to 13. They're off it. Let's move to the next round. Okay, round 2 is here, and we are on the play, which is pretty exciting. And our hand, while not actually exciting, it is pretty damn good. So let's keep this, see what happens here. And ideally what I want to do is turn 1 land, turn 2 land, Drake. Turn 3 land, this makes green, Ivy, and then Combat Research here, also getting 1 here. So that's kind of like the dream. So let's see if that's what actually ends up happening or what my opponent's doing. Unfortunately for my opponent, they did have to mulligan all the way down to 5, so that's not exactly a good look for them. But I'm also going to get to file that under not our problem. So let's see what it is they're cooking up. Maybe this is mono white, maybe this is something else with ossification in it, like Enchantress. We'll find out. Herd Migration, okay. So we're playing against another Herd Migration deck. Make Disappear is actually not bad, but I don't want it this turn. I want to be really greedy this turn. So let's green-blue, and then we get to do the thing. So we get to draw a card. Yes, I would love to have a Combat Research on Ivy as well. We get to attack, draw another card, and life is coming up all us. So 3-Horned Lockwhales against a Herd Migration deck, probably not exactly where I want to be in life, but I do have a Make Disappear and a Royal Treatment to help protect these two. So if I see a green land anytime soon, I'm pretty happy about that. Korea's Briefcase, okay. And there's a Royal Treatment. So let's see if we can manage to draw into a green land. So yes, I would like to draw a card from both of these. And there is no green land. So we are going to move to discard, but we don't really want even 1-Horned Lockwhale in this matchup, honestly, let alone 3, so I'm pretty happy with these Make Disappears. Okay, so they're going to play the Topiary Stomper, and I would like to let them play as little magic as possible, so I actually am down to cast Make Disappear here. So opponent's going to go ahead and attack us for 1, not really going to do much about that. We get to untap, and there's still not another land there, which is sad times, but I am going to get to draw a couple more cards. So let's see if one of these is a land. Okay.
I guess I'll take an island. And we're going to go ahead and discard the Lock Whale again, knowing that I do want to see all of these as soon as I see even a single green land. So I think any number of royal treatments, even if they're dead for right now, are still better than, you know, trying to hold on to this card that I honestly just don't really want to cast in this matchup at all. So I'm not going to play the island first. Instead, I'm going to attack and see if I can manage to draw like a Dreamroot Cascade or something. Leyline Binding is going to catch the hands of the negate here, and they're off it. Cool. So we're going to be playing against another one of these ramp decks that we played against last time, meaning I do want all of these Disdainful Strokes, and I don't want any of these Horned Lock Whales. I also only want one of these Thruns, I believe, so let's just sideboard like this and call it a day. Okay, so this time we are going to be the ones to take the mulligan, and this hand is infinitely better. So I'm going to go ahead, keep this, put back one of the Vine Stalks. Because realistically, all I should need is one green source. So as long as I see my one, then I'm probably pretty okay. So what's this, a briefcase again? It is in fact a briefcase. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and untap here. Dreamroot Cascade is actually not that bad. And here I want to simply do what? I could cast one of my Goose Mothers, or I could hold up and make disappear for a turn and see if I can't draw into something like, say, a Royal Treatment or something like that. So yeah, I think I'm going to give us a chance to actually use this counterspell as a counterspell right now. And of course, we'll take this one. That kind of is what it is. So we take that, go down to 19, cry about it, and untap and make a land drop. Combat Research. So that's not quite the, what am I thinking? The royal treatment I wanted, but I am going to get to just cast a Goose Mother for X's 1. And since Goose Mother's ability rounds up, I do get a food token out of this. Unless, of course, they counterspell it. Okay. So I have a 3/3 flyer. I do get one of the food tokens. So let's see if I'm allowed to participate from here. I am definitely not blocking that. If they want to, I don't know, cast some big sweeper or something afterwards, so be it. But I don't know what spell could do 2 damage. But I don't feel like walking into it, so I'm just gonna take the one and call it a day. Okay, so they have a Thrun. I'm actually kind of okay with that, I think. So what can I do here? I can Combat Research. I have played a land. Since I have played a land, I want to simply cast Ivy first. And I'm not gonna cast my Combat Research. I want to give myself the chance to use my Stroke or my Make Disappear this turn, but I do get to Goose Mother, sacrificing this food, drawing another card. Royal Treatment is actually really good. All right, I'm pretty happy about that. It's not like this has reach, so I'm all right there. Okay, so them casting Thrun a turn early obviously worked out pretty well for them, but I feel like we're going to get a pretty decent amount of racing in. So I'm just going to take this 7, go down to 11, and see what happens on our next turn here. Wait, I'm at 12, not 11? I mean, I'll take it. Invasion of Zendikar. I'm going to go ahead and cast my Make Disappear here and hope that this mana isn't for Spell Pierce. Okay, sick. So now I'm going to get to do the thing again. I'm going to Combat Research here, getting another copy on Ivy as well. And now I'm doing 7 to them. So let's go ahead and attack for said 7 damage. So now I get to draw 2 cards. Life is good once again. And no land, so I'm just going to take this 6 damage next turn with the intent to untap with my Storm Chaser Drake in play, and the Storm Chaser Drake can block this. Oh no, it does have trample. Well, that's upsetting. So I guess I gotta find a way to give myself an extra turn here, because this Thrun is gonna do some real work. Well, to be fair, this is only doing 5, and I'm at 6, and I'll have a 2-turn clock, so I actually don't need to touch any buttons, I think. Yeah, all I have to do is literally just not die. And if I cast a Royal Treatment here, that's only 9, not 10. Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and attack. Yeah, let's get our attack in. They go down to 3. I draw 2 cards, an Essence Capture and a land is actually really welcome here. So what do I want to cast? I want to simply cast one of my Storm Chaser Drakes, giving us the option to block the Citizen token, trade with that, go down to 1 life from this attack, untap, kill them, and I'm still holding Spell Pierce plus either Stroke or Essence Capture. Yeah, that feels pretty good. All right, so if they somehow have a crazy way to... Actually, I don't really care about the 3 life here. So 6 is not more than 7, so I'm totally cool with that. So if this 7 mana is for Atraxa, I've got 3 responses to that in hand, so I'm pretty good with that. Okay. So do I want to cast my Royal Treatment? No, I don't need to cast that for any reason, so I'll simply block here, take 5, go down to 1. And I have 7 on the board, so Archangel of Wrath. Okay, not gonna lie, that was a pretty cool one. I am going to Essence Capture, targeting my... Oop, no, Essence Capture, targeting this. Stick. All right, easy peasy 2-0, let's keep it going. All right, let's start round 3, but not with this hand. Yikes. Okay, this is much better. So we are on the draw, which is a little bit sad times, but this hand is at least acceptable. And here I have 2 different protection spells in Spell Pierce and Royal Treatment. So I'm going to put back the Spell Pierce knowing that we have the Royal Treatment and a Make Disappear. Or do I want to just put back the Lock Whale and hope they're not like a hardcore creature deck like Mono Red? I think that's actually probably a little better for me. So let's do this, give ourselves a chance to draw a 3rd land so that we can go ahead and draw like Ivy and then have either this or this available. That seems pretty decent at least. And that's an island. 2 islands. Mismatched islands. Boo. Do I want to walk ourselves into some random counterspell like there, Make Disappear? Probably not. I'm going to give myself another chance to draw another land. If they play Fairy Mastermind, nope. I was going to say if they play Fairy Mastermind, I don't mind countering that. Okay, so it actually does look like this is mono blue tempo, not just like some 2-color control deck with a messed up mana base. So here I guess we are looking out for things like the Howdy Jin, we're looking out for on the road the Tolarian Terrors, and everything else there is basically making this close to a mono blue mirror, except cards like this aren't as good. Okay, so let's untap and hopefully draw a land. We do, let's go! Okay, so there's the Make Disappear. So now let's see if the last mana for them isn't named Spell Pierce. Hopefully it's not. Okay, cool. So now that our Ivy's resolved, hopefully we can do some salad work starting next turn. They can use this opportunity to resolve a Jin, but now I've got Combat Research and Royal Treatment available, so if I get to do either / both of those things, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm going to Combat Research here. That makes it a 3-2, and Royal Treatment will make it a 4-3, so if they try to block, that's not exactly going to go well. Go Gadget Pump Spell. Okay, so they can spend like all 3 of their mana if they really want to cast something like a Fading Hope, but right now I've got both Combat Research and Royal Ward, so we have a lot of protection for this card. All right, so let's get an attack in, and it looks like we are going to get to connect here. Hell yeah. And I'm actually going to play the Dreamroot Cascade here because I've got 2 Make Disappears, so I do want to give myself the chance to be able to double counter next turn. Okay, there's another island, and looks like we're not doing anything this turn either, so we'll be pretty happy to untap with a bunch of cards in hand and mana available. We go to 12, we get to draw another card, and here we're just going to play our Restless Vinestalk and be pretty happy about holding up 4. Okay, so now we've got our 5th land. Is my opponent going to try to, I don't know, cast a Jin counterspell backup maybe? It looks like that's not what we're doing either. Let's untap. Okay, so there's a Horn Lock Whale, so that's not good yet, but in the future, I'll be pretty glad to have the potential to just like jam this as a 6-mana creature. Okay, and we'll play the basic island. I'm okay with that. No need to press any other buttons. We'll just go ahead and pass here. If this is a Thirst for Discovery, Flow of Knowledge. So that's a draw 5, drop 2. That's a lot of cards, but they already have 5. So I'm actually going to let that slide. So assuming that we don't get into some crazy counterspell war next turn, right? They have 10 cards, they discard down to 8, untap, draw up to 9, play a land, that takes them down to 8 cards. This way, if they don't play anything, they actually have to discard another card to hand size. So this is going to make them be a little bit more proactive, and while a draw 5, discard 3 is still pretty good, I don't think that's enough to make me start using my mana and my counterspells. Okay, so it looks like we're not going to be doing anything this turn either. And I'm okay with that. Let's just untap. Letting them discard. Not going to jam a spell into one of their cards and like let them actually use their cards. I'd rather just have them discard and be sad about it. Okay, so they discard a Dissipate, which does not solve any of the problems I'm looking to present. So let's continue our attack. They go down to 4. We get another card. And it's an Essence Capture. Actually, that's not bad. So now if they try to cast a Jin to... Is this another Flow of Knowledge? That's fine. So now if they try to cast like another Jin or something else that flies to provide a blocker because they're at 4 now, I do have another counterspell and a hard counterspell at that. So pretty happy overall. Okay, so there's the Jin. So now I'm going to Essence Capture here, target here. We can start fighting that fight. There's a negate. So now I can Make Disappear on the negate. And if they tap 2 for Make Disappear, whatever. Okay, they just do it like that. That's fine too. So they negated what? My Make Disappear.
So now we'll make disappear again. That's the ball game. Cool. Okay, so here I think what I want to do is just put in 2 Unlicensed Hearse and 2 Thruns and take out these 4 Horned Lock Whales. Everything else I think I like. Even the Royal Treatment, which is kind of mid, I think that's still okay. I could take out 2 of those, or take out some of those and put in Disdainful Strokes. No, I'm going to keep the Royal Treatments, because if they're siding into things like Fading Hope to try to play a bunch of defense, I would rather have my protective spells to work around that. So this hand I will keep, even though it doesn't have like an early creature or anything. I'm pretty okay with this still. Like, especially if I actually get away with like my turn 2 Unlicensed Hearse or anything else here. Okay, there's our Thrun, so that's a good start. And here I'm just not gonna press any buttons until I have a few more land drops here. It could also just like try to play a turn 3 Djinn and force me to have a counterspell. Luckily we do. If that's what ends up happening, I'll be glad to, I'll be glad to untap and simply cast the Essence Capture. But here with a Spell Pierce, I'm pretty glad about that. So I will jam this into a Spell Pierce. Okay, they did have their own Spell Pierce. You got it. Don't lie and say I enjoyed that, but it's okay. Like, we could have waited until we had a 4th land drop there, but I don't have a 4th land in hand, so it's not just walk into stuff. Okay, so there's another Hearse. I'm pretty glad for that one. But now I have access to Essence Capture plus Spell Pierce. So I'm going to give ourselves a chance to use that and not let them resolve a creature. Although I would appreciate more land drops coming soon. That's not a land. So we'll discard a Slip Out the Back that I don't see myself using for a while here. That is a land. Alright. So now what do I want to do with it? I think I'm just going to jam the 2nd Hearse. And if they have another negate, then so be it. It is a literal negate. Okay. Choices exist. You know what? Let's fight. I'd rather make them use their mana here than just giving them a free turn to cast something like a Thirst for Discovery. Oh! Or it's just going to resolve. Stick. So I'm going to exile these now to prevent them from being able to immediately run down a Tolarian Terror on me. Oh, that's something. Okay. So we just invoked Winds and took my Unlicensed Hearse. I'm surprisingly okay with that. Yeah, I'm just going to jam this Thrun down their face. So, yeah, this is fine by me. Like, don't get me wrong. They can play a creature, use the creature to crew Unlicensed Hearse, and then that can potentially be like a pretty big blocker or whatnot. But I think I'm pretty okay with being able to put like a combat research on this and just go from there. They could also just like pay full retail for a copy of nope, nothing. Sick. Let's do that. Oh, hell yeah. Just resolved. I'm a fan of our things just resolving. So now we get to start drawing cards, which is sick. And another Essence Capture is actually a pretty good luck. Okay, so there's a Tolarian Terror. So we're gonna Essence Capture, putting the counter here. And now if this is, I don't even know what this could be. I guess a technically like a Spell Pierce to tap me out, but we're looking pretty good here. And they're off it. We are 3-0. Let's go.
Be sure to check out additional content from myself, Nikachu, the Commander Cookout, and others at themanabase.com.
We're in round 4 now. We're on the draw again. And my hand is fine, so I'm going to try to keep... I don't like being on the draw with this, but I don't like being on the draw with any hand, so it is what it is. Shattered Sanctum. Okay, so that tells me I could be playing against some probably mid-rangey thing. I don't know what else plays black-white. Okay, so we've actually got a lot of creatures, and I kind of like that for exactly one more turn. So what I'm going to do is give ourselves the chance to keep Make Disappear up, and what I can do to play around specifically Cut Down is I guess I could play Goose Mother first for X is 1, so it's a 3/3 and doesn't get cut down. I could also just dodge Shieldred altogether and simply wait another turn. You know what? I actually think that's better. I'm going to dodge Shieldred and wait a turn. Because I've got Make Disappear, Essence Capture, and Spell Pierce. And if I can give myself another draw step to maybe get into a copy of, what's the protection spell? Royal Treatment, then that might work as well. So here, I guess I'm going to start with the Storm Chaser Drake. Let's start there. If they have Cut Down and Cut This Down, yeah, sure, I'm medium sad about it. But if their play is to simply untap or just use this, untap, try to Shieldred, I'm going to be really glad about getting to like Essence Capture and then do stuff from there. But looks like that's not what's happening. Draw a card, gain life equal to the number of cards in hand. Yes, you can do that. Okay, so we're like full on black-white control at this point. Their Field of Ruin can kill my Mirrex, which is a little annoying, but oh well. Another Spell Pierce I think is actually kind of a good draw. So I am going to make my land drop, and let's get an attack in for 1. Or, I'm sorry, for 2. I'm going to give it another turn here. I'm going to give myself a chance to double/triple spell with Make Disappear and Friends. That's mostly fine, I think. We're just going to go ahead, get another island, be okay with that. And if we need to use mana, we did float a mana for things like Spell Pierce, so it looks like that's going to be irrelevant. Is this another one of that draw card? It I'm going to use one of our Spell Pierces on the second one of this. Oh, wait. It's the same end step. Oh, never mind. It was already just free. Thick. That's way better for me. I forgot that I had mana floating still. Oh, we're Abzan colors. Okay. We are not just a black-white deck. All right, so I don't mind making a token here. I'm not going to attack with the token because we do have a 1/4 just chilling here. But let's see what happens to my Storm Chaser Drake. The end. Okay. Sure. So it's removal plus cranial extraction. I'm actually okay with that. So they do know the contents of my hand after I do that, which kind of stinks. But I think I'm still okay with being able to like tap and then play like Goose Mother with cards to back it up or something similar. And the land is actually pretty helpful here. So what I can do is play Goose Mother for X is 1. Again, it's a 3/3, so it dodges the cut down. But I can still double spell with Spell Pierce and make disappear or Essence Capture. So let's get an attack in with our Might token here. And then starting next turn, I can potentially attack with Goose Mother, sacrifice the food, draw another card, and just kind of keep it pushing from there. So let's see what it is they want to do, if anything here. And it looks like a big fat nothing, so let's untap. Oop, that is not nothing. March of Otherworldly Light for 2. Okay. Sure. So now we move into the draw step, and that's a Horned Lock Whale, which is honestly not great, but it's also not nothing. You can't speak a creature yet, and neither can you, so I will attack with our Might. Another thing to watch out for, we are a little limited on the number of threats we have left. Yes? No. I'm actually gonna make disappear this and sacrifice the Might that's attacking. Yeah, leave my Ivy alone. I don't know that that was a great choice here, but we're getting off to a really slow start, and I do want to actually give us a chance to use / develop our threats. The Essence Capture is still gonna be pretty good here. Their creature land is gonna race us fairly hard. Actually, I can just use this. What am I talking about? Never mind. We have a solution to that. Unfortunate, but happens. Needs black and green. Okay. Yeah, there it is. That's fine. So they do get to exile a card from my graveyard, but to be honest, I don't really care about that. And the other part is creating a food token, which is not irrelevant. Okay, so goodnight, Ivy. And let's go ahead and Lagoon Breach the land. Okay, so the cottage goes on the bottom of their deck. And I've got a Dreamroot Cascade, so I'll be pretty happy about potentially having just like a giant 6/6 threat here. Like that certainly does hit me in the happy spot. The Caves of Koilos doesn't really do too much for them. Okay, and I'm definitely just going to jam out my big giant friend here. So if that last card in hand is a removal spell that can kill this, fantastic. Doesn't look like it was though, so I suppose I'll be pretty happy to just start jamming. And remember, the Might tokens from this can't block, so if they want to block with this, then it just gonna go away, but currently looks like we're doing okay. They don't really have a good attack with Restless Fortress either, because I do have a Restless Vinestock that's just face up here. Are we popping the food? We are popping the food. Okay, so they're gonna go back up to 21. I'm pretty okay with that. And what's this last 2 mana for? Beseju my Mirix. Sure, that wasn't the most important land here anyway. Like, it is good for sure, but I care a lot more about this Restless Vinestock. Yeah, I don't know why we didn't target the Vinestock. The Vinestock doesn't get hexproof. Whatever. I'm gonna file that under not my problem. So they can draw a card, sure, and then gain a life. You got it. Okay, and they do animate the fortress, so that is gonna go really poorly if they actually attack. Oh, I think we just missed that. Sorry, opponent. Still not sacrificing the food. I want to give ourselves the chance to potentially draw the other food, Goose Mother, and use this as a card. So here I'm just going to go ahead and attack for 6. They go down to 18. I've got a relatively full grip of cards here. So I'm going to take the 1, go down to 16 here. And what happens from here? And the hell is a farewell. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just Spell Pierce that. I finally get to actually use Spell Pierce. So now we get to untap here. And what do we draw? Hey, there's the other Ivy. So, okay, so that's a good start. Now we're going to cast Ivy. We've got 5 mana left over. 5 isn't 6, so I can't triple spell with what's in my hand, but I'm still not exactly complaining about this. Okay, this is fine. Not blocking with Ivy here. Is there any corrupted text on these things? No, and no. Okay, so going up to 3 poisons actually completely fine. Sunfall. Okay. I would rather that didn't happen. I do have to sacrifice my Ivy to make it a true counterspell, but I'd rather do that than potentially lose my Horn Lock Whale here. So don't really like having the 2-for-1 myself, but it is what it is. So now let's untap, and there's a negate. A negate's pretty freaking good. So now we get to attack down to 6, and because the Restless Vinestock has trample, I'm pretty happy about our prospects from here. If they try like just to do a big ass sweeper and then hold up the Might token for a blocker, then I'm still fairly ahead in that. And it looks like they realized that. Cool, let's move to game 2. So here I want Disdainful Strokes, and actually I think that's it. We did see a fairly limited amount of creatures, so I'm going to take out 3 of the essence captures. I'm going to leave the 4th one in just in case. I think I want that more than a copy of like Fading Hope or Obstinate Baloth. Yeah, I think this is better. If there is a game 3, then we'll see more information in game 2 as well. Okay, so once again, we're on the draw. This hand is, I legitimately think this is fine. So if this hand gets a creature anytime soon, it kind of goes off. And being on the draw gives me a slightly higher chance of hitting the land drops I need to get there. Or we just have it every time and there's never question. Perfect. I guess we'll take that too. And they played Up the Beanstalk. Oh, hell yeah. I am here for that. Don't get me wrong, it's going to be pretty good against me, but that doesn't mean the play doesn't absolutely kick ass, because it totally does. Okay, so there's a Sanctum, and are we doing anything with 3 mana here? Looks like we might be casting a Duress. That's fine. I've got 2 combat researches, 2 counter spells, so they can take the royal treatment and make my life a little bit of a pain in the ass for a turn, but they can't really cut me off of any other route. They do, in fact, take the royal treatment. Got it. Okay, so it looks like we're not doing anything else this turn. I'm just going to get to untap here, and that's a Spell Pierce, not a creature. So I do want to see a creature so we can start actually making work of this combat research. If I do, then yeah, I'll be a little sad that I don't have the royal treatment as well. But I think I'm still in a position to potentially do pretty okay soon. Okay, so there's an island. I'm going to play the Yavimaya Coast because they know about that one. So they know about these 4 cards. They don't know anything about the Spell Pierce or the basic island. Okay, so then now we have a Might token in play. Is what it is, whatever. So I would like to have like my own Mirrex, but realistically, I'd like to have like a couple of real creatures in here. Let's untap, and another Vinestalk. Okay, so as it stands, I'm losing pretty hard to just this copy of Mirrex. I do need some help. Yeah, because these tokens are going to start adding up pretty quickly, so I need to like get on doing something positive here. And it looks like we're animating something. Nope, we're playing another Beanstalk. Okay. Honestly, I'm pretty glad they cast a Beanstalk and didn't just try to hit me with like this. But it does mean that every time they cast something big, whether I counter it or not, they're going to start drawing 2 cards per, and that is hot. Another Cascade, not very good. So what can I start doing? If they attack me with these 2, I don't think I want to try blocking just yet. Yeah, because I'm completely tapped out if I block. So I think I'm just going to untap here and draw another island. Okay. So we're getting to the point where like our creature light draw is getting really punishing. And I'm on a 2-turn clock. So normally being at 15 would be completely fine. But remember, these things give infect tokens as well. And I'd be going from 5 to 8 with this next attack. So I gotta start being pretty productive pretty soon. Okay, so I will animate to block 1. And let's see if I'm allowed to do that. Okay, Shieldred's Edict. I don't mind packing it up now. Okay, so let's try that again. This time we will be on the play. And I don't think I want to make any change. Actually, no, that's false. We saw the Into the Beanstalk, or Up the Beanstalk, whatever it's called. So I think I want to give myself no essence captures and like 1 Fading Hope just to like maybe dodge a very, very small piece of removal. So here I've got a 1-lander. That is very good if I draw... Okay, no, it's actually not good unless I draw 2 lands and not guaranteed, so let's mull. This hand is a little better. So let's keep this, and I'm going to put back the Disdainful Stroke because it's not even good until later. So let's play the Restless Vinestalk and start going. So if they duress, they can take our combat research, and that does make me pretty sad if I end up like having Goose Mother plus like not much follow-up because they're taking my research, and that is what's going to happen, so sure, I'm sad about that. Unfortunately, with the way our lands were set up, I didn't have a way to hold up the rest for that. Oh, they took the Spell Pierce. Ugh, man, that stinks. That means I'm walking into removal. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I think I'm going to waste 1 more turn passing here so that once again I can play Goose Mother at least for 3 to avoid specifically cut down. And I know that if they have another piece of like 2 mana removal, there's still like not much I can do about that. Skrelv's Hive. Oh my god. There are so many cards I'm hard losing to. Okay. Another one I'm just not beating. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. We have a food token. We get a Might to start playing Magic with. A Beanstalk? Oh my god, are we untapping with this Goose Mother? Holy shit. Okay. Not gonna lie, getting to untap with the Goose Mother was not on the checklist. Cool. So now let's get an attack in and draw 2 cards and see what we can start doing. Okay, so there's an island. That's actually an okay start. I would still rather have like, I don't know, royal treatment or something similar. Another combat research. Okay. Dilemma. If they know about the Disdainful Stroke, right? Oh, no, they don't. Okay. that means I'm just gonna pass the turn. Because now if they try to jam like a Shieldred or something, I'll be pretty happy to have Disdainful Stroke. And if that's not what ends up happening, then I'm fairly okay with that. The Beanstalk is gonna start getting really scary though. So there's the land, and then there's an untap. Okay, now what? Another island. Okay, what do I want to do from here? I think I'm going to start by simply casting this Storm Chaser Drake and seeing if I'm walking myself into a Shieldred's Edict. I'm not. Okay, good start. I'm also not gonna cast my combat research here because they can still, like, I don't know, go for the throat or something. I'm gonna cut down my Storm Chaser Drake. Okay, hopefully the other card in hand is not named Shieldred's Edict. Please don't have that. Whew. All right, Gary. Not pressing any buttons, just gonna pass. So what happens on Toxic 3? They get lifelink? Yeah, creatures you control with Toxic have lifelink. Okay. Annoying, but it is what it is. So they attack me for 2. I go to 17 and 3. I untap, hopefully attack them down to 4. They can go up to 7. Okay, so they get to draw a card. I cry about that. But this is absolutely not happening. And a slip out the back. Okay, so now that they've tapped out, I don't mind putting this into play and attacking for 5, and that's very different here. So 5, they go to 3, and now this takes them to 6 with the lifelink here, and I think I'm okay with that. Okay, Storm Chaser Drake and slip out the back. Pretty happy about that too. So with 2 slip out the backs, my only job... Oh no, they lose a life. Never mind. I was thinking that if they gain 3 life here from these attacks, they go back up to 7. I'm only able to do 5, maybe 6 if slip out the back. And I thought they were going to live at 1, but I forgot that Skrell's Hive makes them lose life. So I'm actually just not really scared of anything if I get to untap, basically. They're going to cut down this Drake, and I will go ahead and try to rescue my Drake with a slip out the back and draw a card. Okay, so we draw a card. It's a combat research, also pretty decent. Now my friend is faded away. Cut down doesn't do anything anymore. Shieldred's Edict, okay. I'm going to slip out the back again and see if we can get away with that. You have a 3rd piece of removal. And I guess it was a little loose to not let them just cut down. Okay, we got away with it. But it was definitely a little loose to, like, not just let this happen. I should have actually just let that happen. And then if they tried to Shieldred's Edict, I could have slipped out the back and rescued this one twice for the guaranteed kill. Instead, I just wanted to, like, get greedy and drew my card and had a little bit of a tunnel vision on the draw card part here. So I acknowledge that was not great, but it doesn't matter. We're 4-0. Cool. All right, last round. Let's see if we can actually manage the 5-0 trophy. We are on the draw, and our hand's got 3 creatures and a slip out the back, so I will be keeping this, hoping to potentially defend one of my Storm Chaser Drakes with the slip out the back. Let's see if that's what actually ends up happening here. Deathcap Glade. Okay. So that means I don't know if we're playing against just like black-green mid-range list. We could be playing against, I guess, 4-color stuff. Really anything could happen here, so we'll find out. Okay, Llanowar Waste, so I'm pretty sure we're just playing against some black-green pile of cards that probably has a bunch of like cut downs, go for the throats, stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead, pass here, and give myself the chance to play Storm Chaser Drake next turn, holding up the combo of Slip Out the Back or Spell Pierce. I think that's what I want to be doing here. So it looks like they're going to get to play some giant creature. Blissa certainly counts. Yikes. Blissa definitely counts. Not scary at all, honest. Am I beating that on a draw? Probably not. I do have copies of Horned Lockwhale that I can draw into, but realistically, this thing being on the play is really scary for me. So I kind of hope that my opponent spends this turn trying to go for the throat this rather than just casting another creature down my throat. Okay, that I think I'm actually okay with because I get to slip out the back here if they make me sack. Yeah, so I'm going to slip out the back here, draw a card, untap, hopefully still have this Storm Chaser Drake in play, and there's a Make Disappear. Okay, so all things considered, this is still pretty okay. So I will attack the Liliana. I don't want to discard anything that's in my hand currently. And I already played a land. So I'm going to play out a second Storm Chaser Drake and just pass a turn with my counter spells intact. So they do get to continue drawing cards off of the Glissa, but now I might have potential to untap, cast Goose Mother, and then just kind of continue from there. Making foods is also not irrelevant, but I suppose I would really love to see one of those Horned Lockwhales. And a Shieldred is absolutely not happening. Okay,
So cut down is annoying, but the Shieldred's gone, so first mini mission accomplished. Okay, okay. So combat research can go on here. I draw a card for the Storm Chaser Drake. Then I get to draw a card for having hit them, and an Essence Capture is actually pretty freaking good. So let's get an attack on here. See if I can't also draw a Horned Lockwhale, because I'm greedy. It's a negate. Not quite, but not bad. How do I want to proceed this turn? I'm going to hold up double Counterspell. So I'm not exactly appreciating the fact that this Glissa is getting to hit me over and over here. What's this? Go for the Throat. Okay. I would like to negate your Go for the Throat. Leave my nice things alone, please. So I do take that. Destroy target enchantment. Okay. So that's fine. So if you cast another creature, I'll be very happy to Essence Capture. Oh yeah. All right. Counterspell. Target. So now I get to draw a card for the Essence Capture here. That feels pretty good. And even with the Nissa hitting them, I am now up on cards and I can untap and cast the Goose Mother. Ooh, and Ivy. Okay, so let's go ahead and get an attack on here. And I want to cast you for X is 2. So I've got a 4/4 with 2 foods. Oh no, with 1 food, it's half X. Right, half X. Okay, so I guess we're just going to overload them with flyers. Well, I'm not blocking the Glissa with any of these things here, but I do want to draw, like, I don't know, maybe a Royal Treatment or something soon. Of note, they are attacking me for 3, and I do have a food token now, so I can, in theory, go ahead and gain 3 life to buy a whole nother turn from this Glissa. So hopefully they don't just, like, jam another Shieldred down my throat. That would kind of suck. Another removal would not be great. Okay, so Mosswort Knight is completely fine. If you just, like, cast that and pass, I'm pretty okay there. Tear Asunder, my Storm Chaser Drake kicked. Okay, what's this? I am absolutely not going to be using Ivy's ability there. Okay, so they wanted my Storm Chaser Drake more than anything else, and I guess that's okay-ish. So let's go ahead and... This is a 2-turn clock. I think I'm actually going to sack the food to draw a card. A Combat Research post-combat. Not great. Is there any reason for me to hold off on casting that? I think no. I'm gonna do this and get a copy onto the Ivy as well. So at least now they both have Ward 1. So if they want to play a creature and do something with this, they have to pay the ward cost, and that gets my Spell Pierce a little bit more of a chance to be relevant. So I think I like that. So now they attack, I go down to 4, cry about that. And they can destroy one of the combat researchers if they want to, instead of drawing a card and losing a life. That is an option they have. And they will not be doing that. They'll be drawing a card, losing a life. You got it. Now let's see what ends up happening here. Sick. They're off it. All right. Whew. Scary. So here I want to Obstinate Baloth. We saw Liliana of the Veil. I also want the Thruns and not the Strokes. I don't want those. What do I not really want here? I kind of want all of these cards, if I'm being completely honest. I think Whale's still pretty good with me being the one who's on the draw, though. So it may just be the case that I don't really want the Thruns. Yeah, I don't think Thrun's great against the Nissa or anything. And I'm going to take out Spell Pierces. I only saw Liliana for Planeswalkers, right? Like, I can assume that they probably have cards like Nissa and stuff in their sideboard, but I don't think those come in necessarily against us. So I'm going to keep in the Hornlock Whales. I'll try to make life a little more complicated with 1 and a negate still in the deck. All right, let's do that. That's decision made. So I'm hoping that if they are going to duress us, that they duress us before we draw Obstinate Baloth, so that Liliana can, like, get herself with our Obstinate Baloths. That's kind of the hope here. Nope. Well, I do have 2 Baloths, so if they are going to duress me, they're just going to see it, because I'm pretty sure I'm still just keeping this. Okay, Restless Cottage. So I'm going to put my Vinestalk into play tapped. Again, hope for no duress. Damn it. So cat's out of the bag. They know we have Obstinate Baloths now. And there's a Mirex. Okay. Rest for the negate as well. You got it. Otawara is the draw. Not great. I guess it's not bad either, though. Like, if they just resolve a creature over the next, like, turn or 2, then I'll be able to bounce this, and I'll be fairly happy with that. Oh, that only costs 2 for the draw card? I actually thought it costed 3 like this entire time. Oh, there's a whale. Okay, so the whale certainly isn't bad. Okay, there's Deathcap Glade. So now what are we doing? Just casting the night. Okay, it's cast. Not doing much about that. Let's untap. There's an island. They know about the coast, but not the island, so I'm just gonna let that rock and see if we can't manage to just, like, use the Hornlock Whale on this night, reclaim a little bit of tempo, and then kind of go from there. Conversely, I could just take this attack, bluff a counterspell, and Otawara something at end of turn. I think that plays 2. That's gonna feel really good for our creature land here. Okay. Exile a card, get a food token. Okay. So now they have to put that on the top or the bottom. Where is that going? It went on the bottom. Understood. So I'm going to take 3, go to 17, and untap into a Storm Chaser Drake. I don't think that's too terrible. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's terrible. It simply is. I'm just going to cast one of these Baloths. I like that. So now I can hopefully start developing things like this Horned Lock Whale. Yep, that's dead. That one we kind of figured was happening. Sure. Another Restless Cottage. You got it. Now we untap. We draw Ivy. Not great. Not terrible. And they don't know what 2 of the cards in our hand are. Yeah, they don't know anything about the Ivy or the Storm Chaser Drake. So they just know that I have Obstinate Baloth. And I'm hoping to effectively tell them that, hey, I'm holding counter spells. Don't do anything here. Okay, so I'll take this 3, go down to 15. And if they don't cast anything, I'll be glad to put into Horned Lock Whale. Blech. Gross. Well, now they really know I don't have a counter spell. Aw. Well, we might not be alive anymore, actually, after that. So let's gain our 4, play our friend Storm Chaser Drake, and really just kind of see what happens from here. How are we beating this Shieldred? The Shieldred's Edict was really good for them. Okay, that happens. Okay, get a food, and exile as something from my yard. I'm going to just take the 1 free block, I think. Take 8, go to 9, and tap with both my creatures in play, but also the Restless Vinestalk that can potentially trade with Shieldred next turn if they decide to attack again. So this is not nothing. Oh my god, it's definitely nothing. Okay, so what should you cost to animate? 5? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is not 7, so I can't also cast Ivy. How do we get out of this? I don't think we do. I think I just need to be on the play for this next game. All right, so we saw Shieldred's Edict, and that's the only real new addition here. I still like the Obstinate Baloth. They don't, like, can't just think I always have it, right? So I think they have to play into this some amount of the time, and it honestly trades fairly well with some of their creatures. So I think this is actually, like, probably okay-ish. No, on the play, I think I'd rather have my Spell Pierces and stuff back. All right, give me these back. You too. I could put in Fading Hope for something, but on the play, I honestly don't think I want to. I think I just want to, like, oh my god, no, why? That's technically better. This is gross. Not like this, guys. All right, so we're going to keep this, put back in a gate, and really cross the fingers here. Okay, now let's start drawing lands. Okay. So if I draw another land, then I'm pretty happy about the idea of my Ivy getting to participate. That is kind of a necessity right now. Okay, they have a Dread Knight. Luckily, that's not something I care about currently. Oh, come on. Oh, I'm going to be really fucking sad in a second, I think. If there's any situation in which this card manages to survive, I guess I'm pretty happy then. But honestly, the odds of that happening are so incredibly low. Yeah. Evolving Wilds. That's a surprise. I don't know. Maybe I could have given myself another chance to draw a land there. God damn it, it was there. That's what I get for not trusting my deck, I guess. Like, we could have just held up for 1 turn, slip out the back, and then kind of did our thing. It is what it is. Okay. However, I would like to not have that happen. And I understand that that probably clears the way for, like, a Liliana, but again, it is what it is. All right, so let's just draw a creature, please, if you don't mind. Like, I'd like for them to cast something that I can negate here, like a Liliana, untap, draw a creature, and then get to playing the game. Looks like that's definitely not their plan. Their plan is not to let me play the game here. So I take 7, go to 7. Okay, so we drew the Storm Chaser Drake, so that's not nothing. I think it is way too late now. So what this can do is block the Restless Cottage, draw a card. Maybe that card is Horned Lock Whale, or they have a cut down and I'm just dead. Damn. I guess I'm gonna cast my Royal Treatment. I mean, this is what I have to do in order to even survive another turn. So if they have another removal spell, then I am just dead to it, and they do, so we're dead. Unfortunate. GG's. Overall, I'm really not sad about the way that league panned out. Like, we got to a nice fresh 4-0 start, and in the 5th one, we did have a really unfortunate game 3 there. And I know that I could have given myself another turn, maybe even 2, to try to draw lands to resolve the Ivy and then do combat research things. But the way it panned out, well, we just took an unfortunate L in that game 3. But honestly, I think we were in basically every game we played. And aside from, like, the Obstinate Baloths just not really being good enough against the Liliana plan, and us just having a really sad-faced game 3 in which we just like didn't get the number of lands needed to play the game really, I think I'm honestly still fairly okay with this as an initial build. But we got to do a lot of super fun shit. Like all of the synergy based stuff we got to do multiple times in this league here, and we only played one league. So we got to do the thing where we're like, Storm Chaser Drake, do a thing, Ivy, copy the cool thing that you're putting on Storm Chaser Drake. More than one time, we got to have like legendary creature, combat research on the legendary creature, also onto Ivy. We got to, we even got to put a combat research on Thrun once. That was cool. So I'm pretty happy overall about the way this league played. I think what I would do in the future if I were to play this again would be to straight up not even try to play the Thruns. Like, this card is clearly powerful, but it did just kind of pan out that not only is there a pretty decent amount of ways to deal with Thrun in the format, like the 5-mana Sunfall, the 2-mana Shieldred's Edict, there's a lot of ways in this format that our opponents had to actually just deal with Thrun 1-for-1. So if it's not really going to pack the punch I want it to pack, then I don't know that it should be in the list at all. And that's what ended up panning out there. So if I were to play this again, I think I'd just take out the 2 Thruns for an additional 2 copies of Slip out the back, and this way we can give ourselves like full protection from then on. As for the main deck, I think I like this. We did have a couple of spots where we ended up having to mull a little more aggressively or just straight up more than I like, but that's also just kind of like a thing that I knew we had the ability to walk into with that, right? Like, other than Horn Lockwhale, we only have 10 creatures. So if we just don't see a creature early, then it just kind of is what it is. We could be playing things like, even Delver of Secrets to try to get earlier creatures, maybe even that like fly or do something. But honestly, I do not think that's the way to build this deck. I think if I were to play this again, I would probably submit the same main deck, change the Thruns for the Slips, and if I end up catching myself with my pants down on a creature light draw, then fuck it, so be it. You can't win every game. But overall, for a first league, I am actually kind of impressed with the way this deck performed. Like, we did really well. It did a lot of the cool things. We got to do the wombo combos more than once. And stacking combat research plus royal treatment for Ward 2 on cards was just as good as I thought it was going to be. So A1 for that. But anyway, that's going to be today's deck. Let me know what you think about this list in the comments. Is this like a little bit too greedy? Is this very, okay, the deck's bad, but you're good at tempo, so you won anyway? Or is this like actually a thing worth exploring? Let me know. But that's going to be it for today. If you like what you saw, make sure you click the like button, let me know, subscribe to the channel. I do like having new people every day, and I'll see y'all on the next one.